Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Lior of Cyngn, and you're listening to the New Warehouse podcast. Today's safety tip is embrace technology and innovation. Allow it to work for you to create a safer environment. Now, autonomous vehicles, they don't get distracted or tired. You can have layers of safety by design, but it's so much more than that. Virtual bumper systems can be added to any industrial vehicle and avoid collisions by detecting danger and engaging brakes. Telematics and predictive maintenance can help detect vehicle issues before they become a safety event. So look at those and embrace the technologies.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer.
Outdated and bulky, legacy scanning technology continues to drain warehouse efficiency. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible hardware solutions, like WorkHero from Rufus Labs. Utilizing WorkHero's efficiency-boosting wearable scanning technology, mobile device management, and labor management tools, warehouse managers will be able to easily access key performance metrics and improve operations. With their cutting-edge monthly subscription model, you're always provided with the latest barcode scanning wearables, productivity analytics software, on-site redundancies, and 24/7 global support. Superhumanly simple. Make your warehouse team superhuman with WorkHero. Go to www.getrufus.com to learn more and schedule your free demo. That's www.getrufus.com.
Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I have 2 guests. I have Lior, he is the CEO at Cyngn, and Ben Landen, he is the VP of Business Development at Cyngn. And we are going to learn about Cyngn and how they are kind of changing the way that autonomous vehicles are being thought of in the industrial space and changing the actual non-autonomous vehicles into autonomous vehicles. So a very interesting concept and a great technology application. They are going to give a better explanation than me, I'm sure, but I'm very interested to learn about this, and it's very exciting stuff. So Lior and Ben, welcome to the show. How are you guys?
Hi, Kevin. Thank you. We are doing great. Happy to be here.
Second that.
All right. Happy to have you both on. So you guys both have very interesting backgrounds in the technology space and kind of coming into this. So why don't you give us a little bit about each one of you and kind of how you ended up here at...
Go ahead, Ben. Why don't you start?
Sure. So I spent the majority of my career in traditional automotive, with what it was called before it became cool and called mobility. So starting in semiconductor for infotainment and ADAS, ultimately transitioned to more of software and specifically AI and deep learning with a focus on perception and autonomous driving. And after my last company was acquired by Tesla, I knew Lior from before. We had crossed paths when he was starting his Cyngn journey and looking into autonomy and autonomous vehicle solutions, and kind of came full circle. And right when I was looking for that next chapter, I was really attracted to Cyngn by nature of what I think is a very unique strategic position, which is to really try to bring robotaxi capabilities to more constrained, geo-fenced industrial use cases.
Okay.
And that's where I find myself now working on.
All right. Interesting journey. So how about you, Lior? How'd you end up here?
So I've been building technology companies for about 20 years now, and always attracted to really big problems that present large scale and disruptive innovation. And, the one thing about this mobility transportation, I would say evolution in the past few years, it really follows the trends that happened with telecom before, where you had incumbents, hardware manufacturers that were, fairly simple machines, and then disruptive companies, predominantly data and software companies like Google, came in and completely reshaped that industry and really opened up the possibility for new uses, new ecosystems. So, as we were looking 5 years ago at what is happening with transportation, mobility, we identified that there's a very, very interesting opportunity here in the entire industrial space of applying the same logic of bringing extremely disruptive software and taking a data-centric approach to what you can do in the industrial machine world when you really open it up to above and beyond what human operators can do. So, for us, it was building up a great team that took on this problem, been working on this continuously for over 5 years now, and led us to where we are today, which is through an IPO and up to the next stages.
All right, very interesting, and it's interesting to hear, I guess, everybody's background. And I love that Ben said, he worked in the traditional audio industry before it became cool, I guess, again, and now it's called mobility. So I love that there. And so Cyngn, we've been mentioning the name, obviously, but why don't you tell us a little bit about Cyngn and what it is that you guys exactly do, Lior?
Sure. Let's start with maybe the stage to why we think this is such an attractive and really exciting opportunity. So when you think about autonomous driving, autonomous vehicles, this is one of these technologies that really come once in a generation and really reshape a lot of things about life, from the open roads and the shape of cities and real estate, and all the way really up to space exploration, because of the big impact it has on our life across everything that moves. At Cyngn, one of the things that we've identified is that the place where it is really going to make landfall and really start making significant commercial and product impact is within the industrial space. And it's a pretty broad spectrum of different uses, but what's really common between them is the fact that all of the industrial application, whether it's inside warehouses, manufacturing, airports, seaports, mining, construction, all these environments are much more structured than the open roads. Everything moves slower and there's much more discipline. Mm-hmm. The value per vehicle, the unit economic, is huge compared to what you have in a robotaxi, where downtime is a big factor, safety is a huge factor, access to labor is a huge factor. And at that point we said, okay, this is obviously something that is a very big problem, and let's build a system that is able to cope with a broad set of these different applications. And that's what set us on that path. The idea was to build a software system that can introduce autonomy into all of these different applications, but remaining a software and data company. So the customer can choose the vehicle. Our path to market is in collaboration with the vehicle manufacturers, where our software inside all these vehicles can be part of a total solution.
Got it. Very interesting. And I love that you're looking at the problem, and obviously, there's a huge huge push and lots of buzz around autonomous vehicles being in like the outdoor space in a sense, cars and like you mentioned, robo taxis and things of that nature. And you know, obviously there's a huge need in the industrial space as well. And you touched on a huge point there about the difficulty of finding labor to do these types of things and being able to repurpose labor in a more meaningful way, in a sense, you know, by taking somebody off something that may just be shuttling product back and forth, whether it could be autonomous. And I think one of the big mountains for companies to climb essentially is you know, having the daunting task of maybe having to replace an entire fleet, right? But I think something that sets you guys apart is you're able to do this to existing fleets. Is that correct? Tell us how that works.
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about the fleet aspect, but I really want to touch on the first point you brought up.
Sure.
And you know, that's the role of automation in general. When you think about people, you know, we're creative creatures, we're problem solvers. What we really don't like is that physical, repetitive, grinding workflows that most industries need. You know, that's their lifeline, right? Things that pick and drop and move and drive and repeat and do it day after day and in harsh conditions. So one of the big advantages in automation and autonomy specifically in its ability to really achieve the level of throughput that a human could be for is really the ability to operate a facility to its full potential, whether you have access to labor or not, if you need a third shift, if you need to operate when it's dangerous for people. And these systems, they're inherently safe because of the way they're designed. They're never distracted. They have layers of redundancy in them. And in some cases, it's the ability to allow people to go and move up in tasks that are difficult for machines today and allow machines to do these mundane, repetitive workflows. And then people can really augment by introducing what people are really good at.
Right.
Now, you know, the other part of it is you look at these large retailers and mine operators, and, you know, they'll have huge facilities with hundreds of vehicles. Many of them have long years of lifespan, and they're invested in them already. And these vehicles are operating and they're working continuously. And one of the things that's very unique in being a software company in collaboration with these vehicle manufacturers is to gradually upgrade a company's existing fleet by retrofitting the vehicles and actuating them to accept the autonomous system. And then over time, without disrupting the workflow, as these vehicles become grandfathered, purchase new ones from our vehicle partners that from the line come ready for autonomy. And the ability for us to work with these vehicle manufacturers, whether it's a retrofit or off the line, really allows the customers to take advantage of the existing networks. It's the service network, the supply, the financing, everything they're getting from these OEMs today.
Gotcha. Very interesting. So just so I'm understanding correctly, so the product that you guys have is going on to existing vehicles that are in the fleet, or it's coming onto new vehicles that are going to be entering the fleet.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Both. You can either retrofit a vehicle that's currently operated by a person, and the retrofit involves actuating the throttle, braking, and steering. And once these actuators are in place, then our software system can connect to the vehicle, take over, and drive the vehicle autonomously. Over the next couple of years, through the partnerships that Ben can talk about soon, we can take off-the-line vehicles that are originally intended to be controlled by software. And then we can connect directly to the network and control these vehicles. Both models work. Both models work equally from the software perspective. And that really allows that flexibility for the customer to not need to compromise an existing investment in a fleet in order to start adopting this technology.
Very interesting. And I love that aspect of it because, like you said, it allows them to gradually build into this technology. And I think it allows them to give like an easier taste of autonomy as well without going like full in to just, replace the existing fleet or purchase outright new vehicles just to get the technology. And especially, maybe they bought something, it's only a couple of years old and the technology has just been, kind of rapidly evolving in the last couple of years. So they take advantage of the useful life and then also be able to bring in the autonomy, which gives them the leg up, obviously, in the issues that we discussed. So you mentioned the partnerships in there. So I think that means it's Ben's turn to talk a little bit. So you guys recently had a partnership with Columbia Vehicles, but, you can also add the technology as we talk to any vehicle. So tell us a little bit about the partnership with Columbia and the partnerships in general and how that's kind of advancing the market forward as well.
Sure. So we're really excited about the partnership with the Columbia Vehicle Group. They've been manufacturing and shipping vehicles that humans have used to move materials and to do industrial work for decades. So they know what's required there. They have the dealer networks, the service and maintenance networks that we know are just really an asset that allows us to do what we're really good at, which is to focus on the software.
Okay.
So what we've done with Columbia is we've retrofitted one of their stock chaser vehicles that's available essentially now as a step one for select beta customers, where we'll do retrofits for them and we'll provide retrofitted Columbia vehicles to do pilot deployments. We're already working on a second vehicle, since Columbia does have a fairly expansive fleet of vehicles. And that really is an ode to the way that we've built the technology, the software-centric approach that we've taken. We are essentially reusing the same core software stack across these vehicles, even though they might have slightly different operating speeds, obviously different form factors. That means the sensors are mounted in different locations and calibrated differently. You might have different sensors based on the job that the vehicle is doing. And it's really a great first step to the points that Lior just made, where we retrofit first. It's just like aftermarket and automotive, right? Drawing on my previous life, typically a lower volume but faster moving type of approach, but a great springboard into integrating with those manufacturers so that the vehicles are coming off the line essentially as good as they can be, with the BOM totally dialed in, so that these vehicles are just state of the art for autonomy in industrial applications.
Very interesting. And yeah, I think it's a great approach and strategy that you guys are doing with, partnering with the manufacturers to be able to provide them off the line, as you said, but then also being able to retrofit as well existing fleets and existing vehicles. So I'm curious, when a customer kind of approaches you and they're interested in taking their fleet autonomous, how does that process work? And I mean, how, is it like a simple bolt-on thing and all of a sudden it's autonomous, or how does that really work?
So it's the simple answer is yes, it's relatively simple. It's the, let's call it the easier part of the technology that we develop, is figuring out where do we put the controllers so they can take the electrical signals that they need to throttle and brake and turn the wheels we need them to. It's still very important not to over trivialize it. But we have a few different approaches to doing that as well. So for example, I mentioned the partnership with Columbia. Obviously, if we're working on a Columbia vehicle, that's who we're going to go work with. If we, for example, get a different request from an end customer, some site operator that has an existing fleet of vehicles that they want to retrofit that fall outside of the Columbia purview, that's where we have other partners ranging from, for example, FormLD, who has feet on the ground at many of the biggest automotive OEMs, overseeing parts of their manufacturing in their plants and doing vehicle retrofits and test builds and concept builds of hundreds of vehicles for some of the biggest automotive OEMs in the world. And we can leverage them to help us with a retrofit at scale for essentially any type of vehicle. It's well within their expertise that they've been doing for a long time. So that's why this expansive and this holistic partnership ecosystem that we're putting together is really goes a long way.
Very interesting, and it sounds like it's really a flexible solution in terms of adapting it to multiple different types of vehicles and multiple different types of manufacturers. So I mean, initially when I guess you guys set out to create this technology, I mean, was this the initial strategy, or did it kind of evolve to, I guess, accommodate what customers were looking for, or to kind of really re-strategize the market and the way the market was looking, instead of just bringing in all new autonomous vehicles?
That's a good question, and one of the things that we learned over the years of building these companies and technologies is it's very important to listen to the customer, understand their needs, understand their alternatives, their options. 5 years ago, when we started processing the idea of what we can do in this space, we went and interviewed probably 30 companies across different industries, from agriculture to logistics to indoor and outdoor and even defense, across the board, and really asked them, if we can automate anything on your fleet, where would you start? What are your problems? What are your alternative solutions? And started aggregating all these requirements and created product requirements for a system that can solve all of them with the common building blocks. And what we ended up designing is a system that we branded it EAS, which is the Enterprise Autonomy Suite. And it's built of 3 components. 2 of them are customer facing, and 1 allows us to develop the system. The software that sits on the vehicle that is really replacing the human operator is DriveMod. And DriveMod is essentially a robotaxi software system that's built on the open road in very high density, high speed, very complicated driving scenarios, but then applied downward to these simpler, more structured industrial applications use cases. Okay. Now, the customer actually interacts with a different part of the system of EAS, which is called Cyngn Insight. And Insight is really like the NASA mission control for the customers. They task the vehicles, they can see huge amount of data coming about the fleet and about their site. It's designed to be operated by unskilled people. They don't need to know anything about the autonomous technology. So really simple and intuitive user interfaces, drag and drop, tell the vehicles what to do, and even take over control of the vehicle and drive them remotely with the steering wheel inside the facility if needed. And the idea is that it should be a very small hop from people from sitting on the vehicle and driving them, or being the foreman that controls the movement of the fleet, to sitting behind the desktop or their iPad and really operating that fleet autonomously. And the same thing applies whether it's inside a warehouse, it's on a mine, it's inside an airport. It should be equally simple to all these different applications. Now, behind the scenes of these 2 systems, the Insight and DriveMod, is what we call the Cyngn Evolve. And that's really where all the data is collected from all the fleets, all the vehicles. That's where the machine learning infrastructure sits, the simulation framework, the ability to drive 1 million miles on a cloud overnight to confirm a new build or an update. Really, if you think about the Tesla autopilot framework on how it's built, harness all those vehicles out there, bring the data, and then push down to the fleet with the press of a button. The same framework is applied here for this use case. So that principle of the problem we're solving, the approach to solve it, has been persistent since the beginning. The one thing that evolved over time is the decision which application to take on first. Okay. And that's where recently we decided, that material handling, warehouse automation, working with great companies like Columbia, makes the most sense in terms of the big opportunity for impact and then revenues, but also the relative simplicity of the problem compared to some other applications.
Very interesting. I mean, I love that it's such a complex solution in terms of what you guys have been able to develop and build, but on the end user side and the consumer side, it's incredibly simplified, it sounds like, which I think is such a key to getting people to really adopt and adapt that technology into their workplace. And like you said, anybody could use the Cyngn Insights, which I think is a great thing, because one thing companies don't want to do is, if they bring in automation and all these different things, like they don't want to have to go hire somebody with a PhD in robotics, right? So, it's very great that you can be able to not only just take, like you said, an unskilled worker that may not have familiarity with this stuff, but still have them be able to operate. And it kind of is a testament to, the ability to kind of elevate some people's skill levels and elevate their position in the work by taking away that mundane, repetitive tasks, as you mentioned earlier. So it's really interesting, and I'm curious if people are listening and they're thinking, maybe I should go autonomous with my fleet. What are, some of the, I guess, benefits besides, what we talked about with the labor issues and taking away the mundane? I mean, what other kind of benefits are some of your customers realizing when they're introducing this technology?
So, the obvious ones are, of course, the ability to scale up your operation as much as needed, right? The ability to reduce dependency on access to skilled labor, solve problems like churn retention and safety, of course. But when you really think about these systems over time, they are amazing data producers. And what they really teach you over time is where you have inefficiencies in the workflow, things that can be improved, enhanced, and these vehicles, they see everything around them all the time, so they can start taking on other tasks beyond the driving itself, right? For example, you can have a material mover inside a warehouse that also scans the shelves for inventory, and at night does sentry work around the perimeter. And I think this is where a lot of these different components of Industry 4.0 come together, where you have the access to data, connectivity, intelligence, and automation really all work together inside these automated fleets.
Yeah, very interesting. And I think there's a lot of benefits out there. And I think the approach you guys are taking certainly kind of eases people into it who may be a little, skeptical in a sense on going full autonomous. And, obviously making the huge investment that replacing an entire fleet would do certainly eases that scaredness, I guess, in a sense, from a capital perspective. So very interesting stuff. I'm really happy I got the chance to learn about it. If people are listening and they're thinking like they want to try this out, they want to try and transform their existing fleets, how can people do that or start the process?
The easiest way is starting on our website, getting in touch with us, reaching out to any of us, either directly on the website. What our team is really experienced in doing is really understanding people's current workflow situation and be able to explain what a deployment of autonomous solutions in that situation involves, the benefits, the things to consider, and just take it from there. It's the ability to understand first the impact the technology can have on your specific operation, and understanding that the step is very small. It's not such a big undertaking than people think.
Okay, that's good to know, because it certainly seems like, I think a lot of people probably feel like, oh man, this is a big step in technology for us, right, to move forward. But it's good to hear it's just a small step, and it seems like it's a really kind of approachable solution that can help you start to step forward, like you mentioned, the springboard into the future of your technology and your operation. So what is up next for Cyngn? What's in the future for you guys?
So as we're moving from a long research and development phase into the first steps of taking EAS and drive mod into the market, and taking it through this collaboration with partners into the hands of customers, the next few months are going to be defined by these select customer deployments, by furthering our partnerships and collaboration network with companies, and of course growing the company, hiring more great talent, more people that are really passionate about solving this problem and making an impact.
All right, great to hear, and I'll certainly be looking forward to hearing more about what you guys are up to in the future, and hopefully checking in at a later date as well to see how further you guys have advanced and how you've advanced more customers into the autonomous world. So really interesting stuff from you, Lior and Ben. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. And what's your website again so people can go to it?
Cyngn.com, Cyngn.com.
All right, and we'll put all that information on the newwarehouse.com as well so people can reference it. So once again, thank you guys for your time today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.